It's the Confluence on 90.5 WESA. I'm Kevin Gavin. A Pittsburgh band called the Blue-Hots creates music drawing on some disparate influences, rooted in both an instrumental style that defined hip cocktail parties in the 50s and early 60s, along with a jazz vocal style invented almost 70 years ago by a notable Pittsburgher named Eddie Jefferson. They also keep things feeling contemporary with a strong element of world music. Founder, pianist, and vocalist Ian Kane, percussionist Dan McMillan, and vocalist Rini Monteverdi recently sat down with 90.5 WESA's Bob Studebaker for a conversation about what is it they do and why they do it.
Love it, how it knocks me down. Love it, how it knocks me down.
I wrote a poem yesterday and set it aside on top of a pile with all the rest. Head on the melody today.
I am in WESA's studio with three members of that band. They are the Blue-Hots, a Pittsburgh band with a unique sound. Rini Monteverdi, Ian Kane, and Dan McMillan, welcome.
Hi.
Hello.
I'd like to start with you telling me a little bit about the band. We have 3 of 7 people here.
Yep.
Ian Kane, would you give us some more details?
It's me, Dan, as you mentioned, Rini. And then we have another singer, Carrie Evans. We have a bass player, Chris Skelly. We also have Tom Boyce on guitar. And then, of course, there's Fox Smith, who is the drummer. Luther Fox Smith. He goes by Fox.
And you have 3 singers, correct?
3 singers, me, Carrie, and Rini.
Tell me a little bit about why it is you do what you do.
Yeah,
Why you make music that is so different from anybody else in Pittsburgh.
This band's kind of like evolved a lot in the past, I would say 10 years ago, I moved from New York. And in New York, I had a band that was sort of similar to it, but it was more of like a vaudeville type of band, and I was playing piano, sort of like stride piano, James P. Johnson type arrangements. And so we did that for a while. I had a singer that I was singing with there. And then when I moved here, that's when I discovered Lambert, Hendricks, and Ross. And, that's the singing trio that the whole thing was based around.
And let's go ahead and listen to a little bit of Lambert, Hendricks, and Ross just to illustrate what it is you're talking about as your influence.
I was blue and I was always wearing a brown because my gal had turned me down. Then we met and you met, I knew from the first you were my love, because that's when the old gray now burst.
So instead of just one singer, I found 2 singers. So it's the 3 of us now.
And that sound is so very emblematic of the 1950s. And Lambert, Hendricks, and Ross, of course, took their inspiration from a native Pittsburgher who pretty much invented that style of singing, which, by the way, carries the name vocalese, a guy named Eddie Jefferson. He came up with the idea of taking an instrumental song and writing lyrics so that there would be a syllable of the lyrics sung for each note played by the soloist. And it really caught on.
I've got the blues and I don't know how to lose them. I've got the blues and I don't know what to do. I'm thinking about you, baby, let me take you.
Yeah, Carrie is the Eddie Jefferson devotee.
Yes.
So I actually met Rini. I asked her if she wanted to join this band. She said, yeah, but, that sounds really cool. Can I have my friend Carrie join?
Rini Monteverdi, since Carrie Evans isn't here, I'll ask you to give us a bit of background on how he came to this style of music.
In the 70s, I want to say, Tony Campbell gave him an album of Eddie Jefferson.
Okay.
Kind of like, you think you can sing, listen to this guy.
And let me interject that Tony is a well-known local saxophonist who has a national reputation.
Absolutely. And when Carrie then got a hold of the Eddie Jefferson sound and he just loved it, he followed Richie Cole and Eddie Jefferson, who were on the road then together, and in 91 saw Richie Cole in California and asked Richie if he could sit in with them. And Richie said to the audience, now there's a small circle of people that know Eddie Jefferson, a smaller circle of people that try to do Eddie Jefferson, and a circle of one that actually has Eddie Jefferson's spirit. And he was talking right there to Carrie Evans, who had just sat in. So when we talk about Eddie Jefferson as the father of this music, it carries a lot of weight in our band.
And let me interject again that Richie Cole is an alto saxophonist, again, with a national reputation, who about 5 years ago moved to Pittsburgh and has been here since. I think he's actually traveling in Europe right now. But he was with Eddie Jefferson for many years, worked with him, and Richie Cole was actually with Eddie Jefferson up to the night that Eddie Jefferson was killed outside of a bar in Detroit. Dan, let me ask you to talk a little bit about the instrumental aspect of the band. You don't sing,
Nope.
but you're certainly central to the sound with what you provide. So let me ask you to tell me a little bit about what you bring to the table and what influences you to bring that to the table.
Okay, well, about 25 years ago, a couple hippies came through my apartment with some drums. They were these little mini congas, and I don't know, something just sparked in me. And so I immediately went out and bought 2 congas, and I started to wonder, is there more? And I discovered very much, yes, there is more. And after that, for over the years, I've studied a bunch of African diaspora percussion, Brazilian, Afro-Caribbean styles. My interest has always been to take these different styles of percussion and be able to fuse them inside of American music in a way. Over the years, Blue-Hots have been really awesome, and Ian has been very open to it, and I kind of think of it as sort of like I'm the salt in the stew.
So, yeah, and Dan kind of brought the whole band to a new level. I wasn't really, we had just a traditional kit drummer, brushes and hi-hat, cymbal, and things like this. And so then I kind of got into writing for kind of what you could call like early 60s Exotica kind of sound, sort of. Some people don't really like that word, but...
It's not an uncommon word for people aware of music, and,
right.
And Exotica kind of sounds like this. And this is Les Baxter, who kind of came up with this style in the 1950s, and it carried the name lounge music and sometimes Exotica.
Right. So I was getting into that, and I called up Dan because we had played together in a Latin band prior, and I asked him if he'd be into joining with this kind of exotic sound, and he was into it. But he's got these skills, like these on all these different kinds of hand drums and this knowledge that he was just not going to be satisfied playing like backup bongos, like with a twanging guitar. So he sort of introduced the idea where the percussion should become more central to the music. And I thought, this is great, we'll do this.
And this is what you guys do with it in 2019. It's your song, Alternate Route.
And then Fox, of course, Fox is the drummer. He brought it to an even louder level. So now we got like a meters kind of vibe going along with the Dan's World music, along with the Lambert, Hendrickson, Ross. So we got a lot of things kind of like balancing and trying to mix together. And it's hard also to balance things because the vocals need they need it kind of quiet for them to come out. Meanwhile, we don't want to restrain the percussion on the other side. So it's kind of like a real balancing act.
And you talked about the fact that you are have evolved a great bit in recent years. I imagine that's a process that continues.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about the song Knock Me Down.
You knock me down whenever you're around. You turn the black and white to color. You knock me down just like a whisper.
That's the song that most resonated with me. It had the Lambert, Hendrickson, Ross kind of a vibe to it, but there was something else too. There was a very modern sensibility to it, even though it was clearly rooted in that sound that is, to many people, it's emblematic of jazz singing in the mid to late 50s. But
Right.
But what you do has a very modern sensibility to it. Can you explain a little bit how you stay rooted in one era, but are very much of the present day?
Well, that song has a lot of different parts to it. It's not just a traditional kind of A-B-A was kind of formed that one day we just sat down at the piano and I just started playing and then playing another section and another section, and I just kind of sewed them all together. Yeah, I think in that sense it was modern because it had a bunch of different sections to it. It wasn't a simple classic songbook form or anything like that.
If you wanted to explain the Blue Hots to somebody, is there an aspect of your sound you think is most emblematic? Would it be Knock Me Down? Would it be Island Bird?
Pretty little island bird, enter to a restless world, coming down to let you in. Never asking where I'm.
That's a really good question. If you had to talk about this album that we just did, I would probably say those two. I really would. I mean, there's other stuff on there that is kind of like much different, like a lot more modern. And there are other songs on there that are a lot different from what we have been doing, but those two, Knock Me Down, I think, and Island Bird, they kind of are following the trajectory of our bands the most closely, I think.
When somebody is witnessing one of your performances, what's it feel like? When you're watching the audience react to you, what is the vibe you're getting from the audience?
Well, hopefully it's fun, kind of like the way it used to be in, like, you know, when people danced to jazz. Like, it used to be dancing music.
I think, too, one thing that I would add to that, too, is that the lyrics, sometimes if you listen to the lyrics, there are really interesting stories behind them.
I think the audience gives us our energy. We can see their faces because we are performing in very intimate settings.
I want to thank you guys for coming in, explaining a little bit about your music. I think what you do is, I know what you do is unique in Pittsburgh, and there just aren't that many people who approach music the way you do and come up with a product like you do. So I thank you very much for being here in Pittsburgh and making your music and coming in and sharing it with you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for having
Thanks
us
so
in.
much.
And the Blue Hots will be playing this Friday night in East Liberty at a place called Wallace's Whiskey Room, which is in the Hotel Indigo. Richie Cole is back from Europe. He'll be performing with them. For the Confluence, I'm Bob Studebaker.
Loving how it knocks me down. Loving how it knocks me down.
I wrote a poem yesterday and set it aside on top of a pile with all the rest. Had on the melody today. Sometimes I smile, your almond eyes and your chip-tooth smile, I confess. And now I'm walking on butterball with a ground. Lucky I feel my brain is over the moon. I'm sent. Sun today burns away, it's glorious and true. I celebrate, skies are gray, you just be silver too. Yes, 'cause it's you. 'Cause you know. Baby, it's you. The news by the cloud in the blue sky stands alone. Baby, it's you. Knocks me down like a feather. I don't know why. If everything's going my way, then it's 'cause you're a wing on my bird. It's absurd, but it's true.
WYEP celebrates